Welcome to the Business Growth Spotlight, where we shine the light and talk with business leaders from all over the world to share their insight and expertise so we can all grow together. I am your host, Heidi Schock, and the co-founder of the Spotlight to Scale Accelerator, where we drive revenue for companies by making sure they're seen as the authority and go-to expert in their industry versus just another product or service. And today, we've been having an amazing conversation behind the scenes, and I'm really excited to be introducing you to my guest today because he's from my original neck of the woods. So we're both in South Florida. He's in Coral Springs, basically almost where I grew up. So welcome, Dani Marks with Niel Asher Education to the show. I'm so thrilled to be here with you today.
Thank you for having me, Heidi. And I mentioned to you offline as well that I think my first time sitting on the other side of a podcast interview. So I'm very intrigued, and I'll do my best to play the guest part for this one. And another thing I will add, I do live in Florida, as you do, but I grew up in Israel. I was born in London. And I've lived in different places in the world. And in the US, I lived in Pennsylvania, which is where I went to school and played. So we could talk about that as well, because you mentioned you want to talk a bit about the soccer background. And now in sunny South Florida.
Yeah, so much to talk about. I have family. Half of my family is from Pennsylvania. So we have so much in common, but I'm not, but you're from literally, we're bringing you and you've hit so many places across the world. So this is extremely exciting for me today. And I'm so grateful and honored to be the first podcast that you're guesting on. So that's a real big highlight and special moment for me as well. So can you share a little bit about you, who you are, the company, and what your role in it, Dani, for us?
Yes. So my personal background, we were talking a bit about also offline, so to catch people up, we were talking a bit about passions, right? And my passion, my entire life was athletics, specifically was soccer. I wanted to be Cristiano Ronaldo. I wanted to be, a top professional soccer player. And most of my life until I moved to the US, soccer for me was football, is how I pronounce it. But I very much got used to saying soccer. So truly, in my heart, soccer is my passion. And as I progressed in my soccer career, in jumping the youth levels and playing internationally, and then ultimately getting recruited to play in Pennsylvania, Penn State University, playing Division I college sports. Really throughout that entire journey, from day one, since I made the switch of it being professional, I always faced injury setbacks. And when you're 13, 14, 17, 22 and you face an injury, you really don't know much about it, and you kind of entirely rely on the individuals, the healthcare professionals who are taking care of you. And really, your career, your dream, your passion, even though you don't think about these things consciously, but they're really all in the hands of an athletic trainer, a physical therapist, a medical doctor. Those are the people that you're trusting, because you don't know how to fix, a sprained ankle or a torn, anterior crucial ligament. You don't. You rely on them, and I always hated that, so much. And it's almost like it was almost always three people in the room. If I was sitting with an athletic trainer who was supposed to take care of me, it wasn't just me and him. It was my body, me, and the athletic trainer, from the sense that I don't exactly know how to interpret what's going on in my body. And I always felt that if I'm not sure how to interpret what's going on in my body, the third person in the room is also the healthcare professional, is also not necessarily there. So that's my passion, being soccer and just facing injuries, which I did. Thank God, nothing life-threatening, but career debilitating, and it's just put me, propelled me into the position that I'm at now, in connecting with Niel Asher Education, that, by the way, has been around for a long time, also offline. But the online stuff is, relatively newer, roughly 10 years since the company has been focused online alone. So that's what really propelled me into Niel Asher Education. And in Niel Asher Education, I've really worn a bunch of different hats. And luckily, really one of the first hats that I wore was really being involved in the production side of things. And Niel Asher Education, we specialize in producing and packaging online course material and other educational resources for healthcare professionals. And for us, it comes, a lot of the time in the space of manual therapy, which is really an umbrella term for, hands-on modalities of treatment and hands-on therapeutics techniques. And we tailor online educational material, accredited and all those different things, for continuing education, for certifications in different areas, for massage therapists, athletic trainers, sometimes medical doctors, acupuncturists, osteopaths, chiropractors. Those are the people that we can, ubiquitously create course material for and educational material for. And I was lucky to be in the room, to have conversations with the instructors that we work with. And we have a group of about 15 to 20 instructors that we work with on an ongoing basis. And they are, top professionals from all around the English-speaking world. We have individuals from the US, from Canada, from Australia, from New Zealand, from the UK who teach with us, and we always kind of followed the suit, and we still do now, of finding individuals who we think, according to our criteria, are a good fit to be teachers. People that, believe in what they do, people that are a bit charismatic and enjoy teaching, people that have been teaching for a long time, people that have, of course, been practicing what they teach for an even longer time, and people that believe in the modalities that they preach and have really stories of helping people. In a lot of these things, it's in the areas that we create material on, it's very difficult to approach and stay with, to find the balance in what we teach, because there's so many therapeutic modalities out there. And I'll open here a parenthesis, and I'll point my finger at you too, but really anyone who's listening, if you're above the age of 25, 30, odds are something hurts, something is uncomfortable, whether it's your neck, elbow, foot, toe, something is hurting and you're not sure how to figure it out. And it's only going to get worse, most likely, because we're all sitting for longer, we're all staying indoor for longer, and we kind of lost touch with moving, since we don't really rely on movement to survive, in terms of finances and different things like that. That's what we do, and a whole modus operandi of life has changed, and we're going to discover more pains and more discomforts, and those problems have solutions, and those solutions might not be the same for everyone. A modality that works on fixing your lower back pain might not be the modality for fixing my back pain. The modality that fixes my back pain might have a lot of evidence might not have a lot of evidence behind it. And the modality that did not fix your back pain might have a lot of evidence behind it. So that's what I mean when it's like it's a very gray area, that, really teaching these modalities. And we find, individuals that have stories that have helped people, and we try and produce it well and publish it online for our audience. And our audience is really the wide array of those different professions that I mentioned. We have people coming to us, like medical doctors who have been through over a decade of school and have really killed themselves to climb to the level they're at, coming to us to learn certain principles in Chinese medicine, or to learn how, principles and foundations of modalities that they did not cover in their, med school, that might be useful to their practice, might be useful to their knowledge, and ultimately might help whatever, client they are, or patient they are seeing. And and another point to add on top of that, whether you're a medical doctor with all the training of the world, whether you're an athletic trainer that went to school for 4 years, a physical therapist that went to school for 6 years, for a massage therapist that went to school for 1 year, once you join the workforce, you very quickly realize that, it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming because you want to help people, you want to be good at what you do, and every single client that walks through the door, patient that walks through the door, is its own case, and that case has many nuances and levels and complexities to it. Not every lower back is the same. Not every foot is the same. Not every ankle is the same. So that's what we provide, like perspectives and thinking of things differently, and thinking of utilizing modalities that might be at the end of the day helpful to yourself as a practitioner, healthcare professional, and to your patient or client. Was that a good rundown of kind of
that was amazing. And
what we do?
Yeah, that was amazing, because I'm thinking about so much on the, I know who you serve, and you serve the doctors, and you can clarify who you serve. But on the flip side of it, for our listeners, for me, as a host of this, as a human, I'm 52 and I have teenage kids, and we all have different pains happening. My daughter has a lot of back pain. She's 15, so she's moving through a lot of body changes. So I'm like, what's going on with your back? Like, there's so much happening there. And then me in my 50s, things are showing up, and I'm like, okay, this was not happening before. And I love what you all are doing with Niel Asher, because we can go to a doctor and get prescribed a drug, or many of them will prescribe surgery for something. And that's not many times the best result, the best process to take to get the result that you want. So I love that you're working with MD doctors who are like, I know there's more out there. Yes, we were taught this in school, but I know there's alternative ways, natural alternative ways that we can heal people. And the way our minds as humans are in as taking charge of our own health. And for you listening, you get to take charge of your own health. Just because one person tells you this is what you need, the path you need to take, doesn't mean that's the path you need to take. You need to be an advocate for yourself and take charge of your own body, and make sure that you're, visiting every avenues to heal, to make sure that you're healing properly. Because once you go down one avenue, especially when it comes to surgery or something like that, that's it. You can't backtrack at that point.
Yeah,
So just
and
listening to you, I'm
and I,
loving everything that you're saying.
thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, and I want to add to that with the beautiful thing about the internet is that like you just mentioned, if I do want to do some of my own research and not entirely rely on what my doctor says or my athletic trainer says, completely and blindly, and the internet is the place that you can find stories, find case studies, find anecdotes of people that have had maybe a similar situation to you, and follow their journey to see, because maybe they found a solution. If your doctor is telling you that there is only solution X for something, but you go online and you find a whole spectrum of stories, why can't you be one of those? So, and the annoying thing when it comes to that is that a lot of these stories are hidden, inside someone's treatment room, inside a doctor's office, inside an acupuncturist healing room. That's where the stories take place. So, one of the things we do is we try and package those things into our educational material. Is like, okay, so there's all these wild stories of people healing from certain ailments and conditions. Let's give light to those and kind of backtrack it and see what was the root cause, and what was the catalyst for sending that person on the journey that they set on, and what kind of solved their problems. And sometimes it's not solve the problem, but improve their lives and make them feel less pain.
Yeah. And you mentioned what could be for me might be different than for you, which I think is important too. We might have the same symptom, but it doesn't mean the same result is going to help each of us. Every person's unique, and every ailment gets to be handled in a unique way and customized for that person. So, Niel Asher Education emphasizes a unique approach to manual hands-on therapy and rehabilitation. So, can you, Dani, elaborate on the core principles that set your educational programs apart from others?
And I think I touched on a couple of of the really core principles. I would say the main one for us is being modality agnostic, or being also perspective agnostic. We never say, if you have X, Y is the solution. We teach Y. No, we don't say that. In some cases, we even have courses that are, contradicting each other to some degree, of two different perspectives to tackle the same problem. So I would say that's our core principle, is that if there is a way, a perspective, a modality of treatment that can help, let's bring light to it. And it doesn't mean that we accept everything, because there are charlatans out there, there are made up stories out there, but there's also a lot of truth out there. So that's where our work comes. That's why people trust us. They trust our brand, because they know we do our best and do the work to vet and bring them the best case studies, best anecdotes, best education as we can. And always, it's important to note, because not everyone would take this for granted, but research is included here. And I know one of the things that AI you wanted to touch on, AI has massively helped us and companies like us in our space and other spaces, but facing research, I wish I had, the time, to read more research papers, to be exposed to more research papers, really see, one thing is reading a research paper, but looking at it and really trying to think about it and look for holes, look for potential, look for things that don't match, questions that you can ask about the research that you've just read. We don't have time for that, and most people do not. AI can help us with that. AI can help us analyze a lot more. AI can help us look at, research when it's done, on manual therapy approaches and modalities. Things like, there's so much research now in how massage, something, and I'm saying this in air quotes for the people that are listening, how something as simple as a massage and as ancient as massage can help people even tackle things like cancer, dare I say it, and a lot more, not to throw in anxiety and depression and so many physical ailments, that even something as simple, again, in air quotes, as simple as massage can really help. And there is research there, but it takes time and effort to kind of analyze and read and see what makes sense. But we always include, research and scientific evidence into what we teach. And AI helps us pinpoint that and always include that. So it's been a major boost.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you said that. Like there's, and quote unquote, like air quotes, there's so many things that you can for anxiety or, cancer. And obviously you can't, make certain claims, but at the same time, there's alternatives for overcoming some things that you may be going through. And it's important that as, you, the person going through it, that you do the research and you have things out there. Granted, we don't want to use Google as a doctor, right? We don't want to self-diagnose with Google, but at the same time, there's a lot of avenues that you can go, oh, you know what, that might be something I need to lean into versus just going all in on this one answer. Let's check out some other avenues that might help us. And massage and manual therapies are a great place to check into to see that that can possibly help you with whatever you're going through versus just the standard take a drug, do the surgery, that type of thing.
Yeah.
So did you want to?
I just wanted to add that, I think I started my my long answer or two answers ago with saying that, like, I used to be very involved in the production, which gave me exposure to these individuals, the instructors, and speaking with them. Now I've more transitioned into really working with universities, community colleges, massage schools, chiropractic schools, different, educational institutions, and just, really find a way to bring more light, to the material that we create. All these different things we were talking about is, you want to give them credibility, you want to get them exposed to more people. So for the last couple of years, we've really been focused on, combining what we do with institutions that have been around for, 100 and if not, longer, 150 plus years, which has been, massive for us. Even, working with like my alma mater, Penn State University, and working with University of South Carolina, University of California campuses, and University of Texas campuses, and many, community colleges and smaller colleges across the United States, has really been phenomenal for us. Eight, from the perspective of seeing how even such institutions that have access to so much knowledge and information really like what we do, and we fit really well with some of what they offer and the type of message that they do want to push. And also from the perspective of really how much opportunity and reach there is out there. And, also from we said we'll talk a bit about marketing. Also from a marketing perspective, there isn't, better marketing than, partnering with a Penn State University that has been around for 150 plus years and is such a grand, institution. And it's just, it elevates what we do. It motivates us, wants us to create more, wants us to find more fitting content and just, do more of what we do. And everything, and it's also an important caveat into it, specifically what we create, it's for professionals, So our material is designed for individuals that have been through medical school, that have been through massage school, athletic training school, physical therapy school, that do have a very important base knowledge, that comes with these, licenses and professions and degrees, which is massive because that allows us the freedom to kind of, build on top of what they know. So we can assume they know the anatomy of the body. Now we can take it to the next level and dive deeper into different areas and utilize their knowledge, and to not start from zero with them, but start from a few steps up the ladder.
So let's talk about, you mentioned marketing. If we can dive into that. This is a business growth podcast. So I would love to learn, for our listeners, learn about what has worked for you, what hasn't worked for you. So what are some really marketing strategies that have worked for you as far as growing your business? Because you serve a lot of people. You have a lot of courses like you had shared. So how are you attracting your clients, and what has worked for you, and what are some marketing strategies that maybe you're like, no, that wasn't something that worked specifically for our business? Not to say that it doesn't work for others, but it just wasn't something that worked for us. And we're really doubling down on this because this is something that we see is about. And I know you have the podcast, which is probably one of your strategies.
So we religiously, I'm saying now, really since the accounts were created on social media 10 plus years ago, we have religiously been posting on an almost daily basis for 10 years. So I don't want to be, cliche when it comes to advice and, use Instagram to promote your business. Yes, we know. We've been doing it religiously for 10 plus years, which has allowed us to, create a community online of people that are, more on our side of the fence when it comes to, being agnostic in these different areas in the healthcare space. And so we generally speaking, if someone follows us, we attract the right profile of individual that's open-minded, that wants to learn, that knows they need to learn in order to better themselves, progress in their careers, understand more perspectives, help these clients and patients that are walking through the door every day that need help, that have back pain, everything we mentioned. Social media is is one that is really the way we communicate with our, online audience. And so I mentioned, we do it for 10 plus years. We have been utilizing different platforms, with different types of content. It's like, and the last year or two has been more aligned because everyone has kind of followed that TikTok model of reels, shorts, that type of thing. But before that, it was really tailoring to different social media platforms, and posting on long YouTube videos on a regular basis, posting valuable content. With us, you won't find buy 2 courses for $9.95. A Memorial Day. We do try and just post valuable things. We've been posting interviews with practitioners, webinars that break down case studies and anecdotes, sharing real stories from patients and clients that have used to be one way and have found their journey into their new lives. There's solutions for the problems they were facing. We've utilized Pinterest, which has been massive for us to, just get straight to the point, savable, downloadable images, graphs, different anatomy breakdown, infographics that are practical and help these people that come to us. So that's what we've been basically for free, been helping online for so long. Webinars, podcasts, blog posts, short tutorials, long tutorials, you name it, for 10 years, and we're continuing. So please follow us on social media if you haven't. But that's what we do, and and then people see us, and they follow us, and they recommend us, and they check out our website, and they see what we have for offering, and oh great, they're a massage therapist, and we have all these courses in massage therapy. They'll purchase something, and when people purchase with us, all this is transparent online. Online reviews. People purchase something from us, they're happy. They see that at the minimum we are non-biased. We have put a lot of time and effort and resource into putting this product together for them. In a side note, but since COVID, where everyone has basically tried to join the online education space, online courses, the internet is infested with online material and online courses. And I don't know if you've taken online courses before, but generally speaking, it's an underwhelming experience, I would say. And it's an overpriced experience too, I would say, in all industries and categories that I've tested out and heard from people. So we don't do that. We take our time, we put things together right. We want really and I know this sounds cliche, but we want every customer to be happy with what they get. And the overwhelming majority of them, I'm talking 99+%, are really happy with what they get. And a lot of them are, returned to us because, also another point for us that is super helpful, especially in the United States market, is that all these professions are regulated, and they're all required, just like in real estate or law, they're required to take continuing education courses that are approved and accredited by the state boards and national boards. And we are an approved provider for these different professions that I mentioned. So someone who is coming to us now and has a good experience, there's a good chance if they had a good experience, they'll come back to us in a year or two when they have to renew their license again and get their continuing education credits. So social media has been, really huge for us, and has been given us the opportunity to, give people the opportunity to follow us. And we have now, hundreds of thousands of people follow us on all platforms. In our biggest ones are Facebook and YouTube, that at least, we've been able to attract a larger number of people that follow us.
Yeah, I love that you shared that, because it's been over 10 years. And this is the long game, right? That you're playing. You're not like, oh, we're going to post for 6 weeks and see what we get and then switch our strategy. You've been doing the same thing for 10 years. And that's a really gold nugget for businesses who are listening. It takes time. And it's not going to happen overnight, right? You hear about these, oh, this happened to me, I did this in 6 months. Well, they've been trying things for like years before it blew up in 6 months. And it takes time and consistency. Content is king. Nothing is going to replace content. It's just a matter of, where do you want to focus putting that content out there? And yes, you've joined Pinterest, but I'm sure Pinterest may not have been the first place that you were on. Like you need to find your lane. Go all in on a lane. Maybe it's 1 or 2 platforms if you're listening. Like maybe it's not on all platforms at once if that's overwhelming to you, and depending on what you can afford to build team around, right? If you can have team that can expand your reach, that's great, but many don't have that out the gate. So what are the social media platforms that your people are hanging out right now that you can make the biggest impact? And just like Dani was sharing, they're value driven. They're not worried about what they're giving out for free. They're not sitting here going, am I giving away too much? They're giving away the information, and they know and they trust that the people that it's going to resonate and that want more will want to invest, will be like, hey, raise their hand. I'm investing to learn more and grow my business and my life through their certifications and through their courses. So Dani, you talked about what's working, and you have the podcast, and we're going to share all of your contact information, Dani. So right before we jump off, I'm going to definitely give you the opportunity to lay that all out there, because I want to send as many people as possible to you. And we're also going to have all your contact information in the show notes. But what have been some challenges that Niel Asher has, or maybe it's one that you can think of, but what has been some challenges that you've faced in your growth journey, and how have you overcome that challenge or those challenges?
So, a main, challenge has also been to keep up with social media. It's difficult, time consuming, and takes time to also, to see a return per se. But also adapting to, Facebook is not the same thing it was 6 years ago, 4 years ago. Instagram is not the same thing it was 2 years ago. Pinterest is absolutely not the same thing. So it's like you're learning things continuously, and something that was working great, on Facebook and allowed you to collect organically 20,000 followers in 2 weeks might not work anymore. You don't know the behind the scenes of the algorithm that sits behind, what content, who the machine shows, content to who. We're not privy to that. We can do our best to keep up to date with announcements and try and understand and see interpretations, but it's very, very difficult. So that's been a massive one, that has been, a real challenge, that I'm not going to, we haven't overcome that. We're overcoming, because it's an ongoing thing, right? Also now, what's working now on YouTube might not work for us in 2 months on YouTube anymore. So keeping an eye on it, staying on top of it, not thinking that we've, captured that hill and won that battle, but rather keeping the finger on the pulse all the time is an ongoing challenge. And a challenge that we have overcome, a couple of years ago, ties me back to my point, my second point about marketing that I wanted to share, is tying into these established, extremely credible, long-standing educational institutions. And, at first, a real marketing challenge was just getting in conversation with these, institutions, and getting them to look us like at eye level and take us seriously. And it was a really difficult challenge, because bureaucratic institutions usually attract bureaucratic institutions and do business with the bureaucratic institutions, and we are an alternative. We are a bit of a disruptor. We're a bit something different. So getting them to speak to us was a challenge. But and also there's still many institutions that it is still difficult to get them to speak to us. But being persistent, always sticking to professionalism, and showing them that in what we teach, we're modality agnostic, but in our modus operandi of professionalism and doing things right and wanting to add value to the healthcare world and industry, is something that is a non-negotiable for us, and we are not agnostic about that. We know how we operate. We know what we want to do, and so we operate, at the same level of professionalism as a Penn State University, and that's what we want to demonstrate and show. And when they're willing to give us, a conversation, which they have, and I mentioned a few different names that we work with, has really just given us a huge marketing boost, because now our courses are tied to other educational institutions, which again is a huge thing. Different places, different universes, but an athlete, top athlete, attaching themselves to a Nike shoe, it just changes the shoe. So a top medical institution, working with us on a course, for what an acupuncturist, just elevates the whole thing, which has been massive for us marketing wise, and makes it way easier for us to attract other institutions that are also interested in the same thing, that might have not maybe necessarily looked at us at the eye level, but now do.
Yeah, absolutely. Partnerships are key. So you mentioned a few different things that I just want to pull out from and make sure that this is resonating with our audience, which is, follow up is one of them, but stemming from when you first were talking about social media, consistency, putting it out there consistently, no matter what it is. Like, you're not trying to be perfect. You need to put out the content, right? and you want to make sure that it's right because you are in that space where, it's important that people are getting the information to help them heal, and to help your clients elevate their businesses through your modalities, through learning that. But also the consistency is key, and putting that out there every day over 10 years, and then expanding upon across the different platforms. And now you have a podcast on top of it. So you're getting that out. You're getting that out in that way, your message out. Now you're getting on podcasts. You're on this one. So you're expanding your message in that way as well with your marketing. And the follow-up, those partnerships, creating those partnerships. They may not, partnerships don't happen overnight. You have to keep following up. You have to be persistent. That persistency and consistency is important. And those partnerships, Dani, I'm sure you'll agree, are giving you that authority and credibility because you have those names behind you, which is really, really important and key as well. But they take time to develop. So one last question for you, and I'll let you go before we share how people can reach out to you. If we were able to come back and connect in a year and have you back on this show, and revisit this conversation, what would success look like for you and Niel Asher?
More of the same. I'm going to give you a boring answer because also from the beginning of our online journey 10 years ago, it was always the long run. It was always, focused on incremental growth, consistent incremental growth. That's what, if we've kept the same rate of growth, and maybe hope a little bit more, we'd be extremely happy a year from now, because then the goal for the next year would just be to grow a little bit more and grow. When I say grow, I'm not talking about only, sales and revenue, which is extremely important, and helps us do everything we do. But attract more professions, attract, like this year for the first time, we've been, officially attracting and offering, continuing education to nurses, which has been amazing for us. This is healthcare is a very, wide spectrum. We work in a niche that is, small in length, but really like bottomless when it comes to depth. And there's so many different individuals and professions, and that's what we want. We want to grow, yes, in sales, but we want to grow in people, in professions, in people finding us, in people following us, in people believing, or people just being more open-minded to the different things that we do, and giving it a chance. That's it. That's what we want, is people to give it a chance. And these people, again, are the licensed professionals and listeners who are non-licensed healthcare professionals. This information exists, the people exist. It might not always be the first page of Google, the second page of Google. It might not always be the first 20 videos on YouTube, but these anecdotes exist, these stories exist. And the right healthcare professional for you also exists. And, I've also the last couple of years I've faced, and I'm sorry if I'm dragging this, but I've faced some also not life-threatening, thank God, but different, medical things in my body that have required my attention. And I don't prioritize it enough, but I do prioritize it high. I want it to be higher, and anytime I prioritize my health over work, or family, I feel guilty, but I always try and remind myself that the best thing for my family, the best thing for the company that I work for, is for me to be healthy. When I'm healthy, I'm more energized. When I'm more energized, I'm happier. When I'm happier, I do more. When I'm more productive, it's more creative, more everything. So that, and if I have a message for you and for business owners, anyone that's listening, is that knee pain that you experience every time you get out of bed, the back pain, the headache, the whatever it is way more taxing than you could ever imagine. It's depleting you of energy, and it needs to be sorted, because it's either not going away or it's getting worse without attention. So deal with it as a business priority. A business priority. Deal with it. It doesn't mean giving it 100% of your attention, because things have to happen, but deal with these things, and the right healthcare professional is there for you. And what we do is try and teach the right healthcare professionals for you.
Yeah. Absolutely. And there's so much more conversation here, but we are out of time. So we definitely need to bring you back, Dani, because you just tapped into another whole conversation about teams. And as a leader in your business, you need to be healthy. As a leader in your family, as a parent, spouse, whatever you are, son, daughter, you need to be healthy in your family because your health, there's a reason they say this, there's this saying, your health is your wealth. You can have all the money in the world, but if you don't have your health, what do you really have? So again, like Dani was sharing, your health brings you happiness, your happiness brings you joy, your joy filters out into everybody around you. And that makes better relationships with your family, your partners, and also your coworkers and your business. And that also unfolds into your teams. So just think about what Dani shared in your teams. When you're providing good health in a way for them to have good health in your teams, they're only going to be more joyful. They're going to be happier. They're going to stay longer, right? They're not going to want to leave. And they're going to be more productive and more efficient. So there's so much more we could dive into, Dani, but please share how people can reach out to you, because not only for businesses who are like, I need your people who you're training to come in and help my people, but also for people that are listening that are like, I need you to train me. Like, I'm a medical professional and I want to learn I want to learn more about your certifications and courses.
So I'm on LinkedIn, first of all. Personally, I'm on LinkedIn, so anyone is able to find me and contact me through LinkedIn. My name is Dani Marks, Dani. On LinkedIn, I'm with my middle name, Dani Pele Marks. So that's number one. Niel Asher Education is also on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Instagram, on Pinterest, on Facebook. So it might have different handles, but if you type in Niel Asher Education, you'll find us. If you type in our mother brand, Nat Global Campus, you'll find our page, NAT Global Campus. You'll find Niel Asher Education. You'll find us there. And again, if you're a licensed professional or just someone who's interested in the body and therapeutics, you'll find a lot of valuable content for free. So please follow us. Our website is nielasher.com, which is nielasher.com. That's where you'll find more information about us, different things that we offer for free, webinars, podcasts, but also our online courses and educational resources are fully available online. And I think I covered everything. And also there's ways of contacting us through the website.
Absolutely. And we have all of Dani's, all the information that Dani just shared inside the show notes. So you can reach out to him on LinkedIn, all of social media platforms. Every link that we have from him, we will be sharing with you inside of the show notes. So you can grab them there. But yeah, definitely connect with Niel, with Dani regarding Niel Asher, and let him know you heard him here on the Business Growth Spotlight podcast. And Dani, is there any last minute things or last words that you want to share that I didn't get to ask you about?
I only wanted to thank you and for the opportunity and the platform, and looking forward to doing this again. And now that we know we're both in Florida, then maybe we can do this in person next time. And yeah, no, that's it. There's a lot more we can talk about and converse about. So we'll save it for another time.
Absolutely. And you know what? That might be a great thing to plan, Dani, because you've never done a podcast interview before. This is your first one. I've never done an in-person podcast before. Could be my first one. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
So thank you for being here with me today, Dani. Thank you for listening to Dani and I on the Business Growth Spotlight podcast today. If you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe. If you're listening on your favorite platform, please leave us a review. And if you want to learn how you can grow your visibility strategically, you don't need to be everywhere all at once. You can download our free Spotlight to Scale blueprint at spotlighttoscale.com/blueprint. Again, reach out to Dani. Make sure you check out all his links, connect with him on LinkedIn and all the social media platforms, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Business Growth Spotlight.